The United Nations Children's Fund has rejected claims made by a senior Sri Lankan diplomat that Australian aid worker James Elder should have kept quiet about the humanitarian situation in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's ambassador to the UN told Lateline last night that James Elder was expelled from the country because he was making one-sided statements that could have promoted terrorist propaganda. But UNICEF's Chief of Communications in New York has defended James Elder, saying he was speaking out on behalf of suffering children. Steve Canane reports.
The civil war in Sri Lanka ended in May, but the wartime censorship continues. In September, UNICEF's head of external relations in Sri Lanka, James Elder, was expelled for making comments about the plight of Tamils in the north.
There couldn't have been a worse place on the planet to be than that very small stretch of beach.
Last night, the Sri Lankan ambassador to the United Nations told Lateline the expulsion of James Elder was justified.
I do not think it is the role of a UN official to make statements that are one-sided, which might help the propaganda line of a terrorist organisation.
James Elder was unavailable for comment, but when Lateline contacted UNICEF's head office in New York today, they were adamant that James Elder had done nothing wrong.
We reject any allegation of bias. James spoke out very strongly on behalf of children in Sri Lanka, and James has spoken out on behalf of children right across the country. Where we see children suffering, where we see them in need, where we see them needing help, we speak.
But speaking out should not be part of UNICEF's role, according to Palita Kahona.
I do not think it's UNICEF's role to advocate anything. They are an aid agency. They are an agency that provides relief. It is not for them to go out making statements that could embarrass a host government.
Chris De Bono disagrees.
In most countries, including in Sri Lanka, we work very closely with governments, but our primary responsibility is to children in need. If children are hungry, if they're suffering, if their health is in danger, we speak on their behalf.
Last night, Palita Kahona also said the government in Colombo had identified asylum seekers who were former Tamil Tiger fighters. Late this afternoon, the Sri Lankan ambassador to Indonesia told Lateline 4 asylum seekers on the boat docked at Merak had been identified as having had involvement with the Tamil Tigers. The ambassador said he'd been able to identify the individuals through press photos. Steve Canane, Lateline.